Hello and welcome to another edition of Bull and Specs, or if it's your first, a special warm welcome to what is not so much a podcast, more a way of life. I'm Adrian Lacey in the deep south, well, in Kent, in England, and in the frozen north, well, just slightly north of Birmingham-ish. It's his names. You can do the precision. I'll just do the vague, broad brushstrokes. Shane O'Connor.
It wasn't that. It was the way you said Birmingham. You spat it out like it was a... It was a rancid Brussels sprout that you'd had in an otherwise wonderful Christmas dinner, and then along came Birmingham, and off it went. But yeah, no.
Well, knowing your self-deprecation, you've probably said worse things about one of your sort of semi-hometowns, home cities.
Well, the great thing about just going around and living in different places is that you can slag off the place that you lived in last, can't you? And know that nobody's going to know if you've done your forwarding address right, where to get hold of you again. But
the trouble is, if you're podcasting to the entire globe, admittedly, we don't expect everyone to tune in, but a fair few we would hope for.
There's a mob with pitchforks at the front door. What do they want?
They want to help you with your garden. Time you tidied it up.
It was good of them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Most unexpected, yeah. But
actually,
anyway,
this week, yes. I need a tuning fork rather than a pitchfork.
I see why you said that.
Oh, yes. But I'm going to leave that as a tease because I'm also going to tease the other things we're talking about a bit later on. So if you are new to the show, essentially it's me and him, and we natter for Britain and, in the entire world, I suppose. And we talk about our week in part 1, then part 2, and part 3. Those are stories that you may well have been across because they tend to be quite big news stories from the last week. Is that a fair representation of what we do, Shane?
I have no further questions at this time.
You weren't listening, were you?
No, I was. I thought it was quite an accurate summation. In fact, I was sitting here thinking, hasn't he done that well? It's almost as if he's done this before somewhere, but probably not. Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. I can't argue with you so far, but I will interject if I do hear anything that I don't like.
Right. So to part 1, where we talk about our last week's experience at a personal level. Do you want to go first, Buster?
Can do if you want. I'm a bit sort of light on the show and tell side. So if you are actually watching the video rather than just listening to the audio, you might feel a little bit shortchanged by this. If you just listen to the audio, you'll think, well, those smug so-and-so's always sitting there talking about the pictures all the while, then I'm getting my hand back this time. But do you remember in last week's episode of the podcast, I was talking about Mr. Squirrel?
Yes, indeed. Well, I don't think you gave him the honorific because you were quite angry with him.
Yeah,
it was Squirrel, wasn't it?
That goddamn Squirrel. I think if I was American, I'd have called
Pesky.
him. Yeah, I'm warming to him now. Anyway, it transpires a week is a long time in politics. It's an even longer time in the world of squirrels because Mr. Squirrel, it would appear, has met a Mrs. Squirrel.
Oh, aye.
And they've had this, which I don't know if you can see that on the. I'm just putting it up to the other camera, and I know you have the camera there, that I photographed in my garden today. This is a baby squirrel.
No way. How do we know you haven't just dragged that off the interweb?
I'll tell you what, because it's not a very good picture, I'll actually put the picture up now while we're talking. I'll do it when we do the edit for the video, and I'll put the actual photo up there. But you can see he's bedraggled. It was in the rain today, and his tail was wet, and he's looking all sorry for himself. And because he's only a youngster, he hasn't got that inherent fear of humans that they get from somewhere. So I kind of...
I think.
I was going to say, probably me running down the garden with a shovel in my hand is probably where
I saw those people with pitchforks. I think it's making him a bit nervous.
Well, they were chasing me. It was like a Benny Hill sketch. But yeah, so I managed to go up quite close to him today and give him some nuts.
Hang on, you've turned turtle or squirrel.
He's so tiny though. He's such a little fella. You kind of think, oh man, his parents. I don't know where his parents are gone, and it kind of made me think about squirrels and and what they do and how they let the youngsters just go off into the wild, and that's filled most of my day. No, the other thing is as well, I'm quite cross with B&Q. I've got another picture here.
Oh, we moved swiftly on there.
That was just an update on last week's squirrel situation. You see this picture? I took this picture in the car park at B&Q, of the family parking area.
Oh dear.
And for some reason, there's a lot of this kind of casual sexism that goes on in this country now. I'm getting a bit sick of it, but for some reason, B&Q assume that I'm going to put a dress on to go to take my son to B&Q.
Well, to be fair, you do.
But that's neither here nor there, is it? I've got to have something.
Well, it's there. It's not here.
It's not a dress. It's a smock, and it's got pockets in the front. It's easier for shoplifting. But it's. Do you know? I get seriously this casual sexism against men who happen to be fathers as well. The other real pet gripe that I've got is changing areas. Seem these days to often be inside ladies' toilets. So when you like a baby changing area.
Oh, yeah.
There's no good sticking it in the ladies because, I mean, I've already got 2 court cases as a result of that. I don't need another one.
There was an incident with my mate Dave, who wanted, like yourself, to be a good hands-on father. And, we ended up in the festival hall, of all places. Get a better class of sexism at the festival hall. But exactly the same thing. I think we had to go into the ladies and excuse ourselves.
Not good enough, is it, really? So bad show, B&Q. I should be sending you a tweet to just tell you what I think of it. I just think that's really, really bad, and why you couldn't put a bloke on alongside it, although I suppose they'd be accused of saying, well, you're promoting a certain type of lifestyle, and I don't suppose they can win, can they, in this country these days? But there you go.
Well, hang on. Why should we assume? I mean, in Scotland, it might be thought that that's a bloke in a kilt, mightn't it? And the other assumption on the other side is that...
look, it's a blooming dress. What's the matter with you? Look, it's not. It doesn't go straight down where her arms are and then flare out at the bottom. That's a dress, mate. That is quite obvious.
Maybe it's just an outsized daughter, and that's the dad on the left. She's grown very fast. He's been feeding her lots of, ready break.
I just think it's disgusting. Anyway, I've written to somebody. I'm not sure who it was, but it was in Green Pen anyway, so it'll probably
your local MP.
Anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. What about your week? What have you been up to?
Well,
wearing a kilt round B&Q.
Yeah, well, but that's just another week for me. I'm actually within my rights to wear a kilt, being part Scot. Although whether the part that's Scottish
what do you mean within your
be
rights?
Covered by the kilt.
Are you not allowed to then if you're not Scottish?
Well, I know. I look down my nose at it because you're not authentic.
Oh, good. I've got a check shirt on. Does that count?
Oh, you're so easily riled. It's good fun.
Does it? Have I got to take this off now? Am I?
That's a BBC shirt. Small checks.
Oh, boom. Oh, like it. No, I'll be all right, won't I? Because presumably there'll be an O'Connor tartan because of the Irish. They like a bit of frockery, don't they?
We do. Irish tartans, do they tend to be more green? I don't mean that to sound as presumptive and English as it is.
What, and Scottish ones are more blue?
They tend to be... Well, no, don't they? I thought the Irish ones had a more focused colour palette. But anyway,
I don't know.
I'm straying onto bad territory. Eagle-eyed people, that is, of course, viewers on YouTube, especially if you're familiar with the setup in my end of the world.
Yeah,
what's that?
It doesn't matter how eagle-eyed you are. If you listen on iTunes, you won't be able to see it.
You won't, but you might have heard it, funny enough, because if I do this... it's the nerves, sorry. Anyway, you might spot, if you are watching, there is a guitar in the background. Now, I should say straight away, I'm not a guitarist. Funny thing was, as we were setting up, an important part of my setting up is making a cup of tea. So I went downstairs to make a cup of tea, and I thought I'd left the radio on a music station, which I was sure I hadn't done. I heard some guitar strumming, and it was your good self. So I might actually get you to do the proper playing, because there'll be such an expectation now that one of us will play decently, and it ain't going to be me.
You can anyway, mime into it, can't you, I suppose?
I'm going to get said guitar, because it's rather beautiful, and I'll play the only chord I can remember. Hang on.
It is a nice one, actually.
Keep talking, Shane. You do it so well.
He never played the plant all the time he had that, did he? Have you noticed? I was always hoping he was going to give us a tune on that, but he never did. Yeah, it's back now.
I am, yes. And so, of course...
I was just telling everybody, I said, you never gave us a tune on that plant, despite how I begged you. What's happened to the plant, by the way? Because I've got one of those in the bedroom, did I tell you?
It came up illegal. No, that's Paul McCartney's line. I could do that between lines. What happened to it? Well, it's there. It's just it was behind the guitar, so partially obscured.
Oh, right.
But yes, I was forgetting. You said you should get yours into your shot.
I'll bring it down one of the nights. I can't get it now
do.
because the lad's is asleep, so I'll have to get it ahead of time. Otherwise, if I go in and wake him on the pretense of getting a plant out the bedroom, she who must be obeyed will not be pleased.
No, you don't really want to be upsetting his night's sleep.
No,
whatever happens. Ask me to play a chord. What chord would you like? Name any chord at all.
E.
E, correct. Thank you.
I like it. It's my favourite.
That's it. Yes. E's are good.
Oh, that's nice.
That's not bad, is it? But
Yeah.
it's a beautiful guitar. But that, I'm afraid, a bit like my some of my languages are no more than hello and goodbye, and that's hello goodbye.
Can I just? I'm just really curious now.
Yeah.
How did you end up in a situation where you only learned one chord?
No, I did learn more. I just didn't keep playing. Sorry. I think I'm going to have to get up. I won't be able to hear you because the headphones.
Right.
Put it back on the stand. Sorry.
To be honest,
Well, the
with
guitar
you,
takes the stand. Sorry, I interrupted you. I saw you.
Those are the best bits when he gets up and walks around the room. You really should watch the video just to see. He's very graceful. He moves a bit like a gazelle, but somewhat injured.
I could only hear a little bit of what we call can spill. Did you say gracefully?
Yeah, I said you're a bit like a gazelle. Those are the big dumpy ones, aren't they?
What? With their cockeyed walk. No, what if I was doing it gingerly, which would be a more accurate description? It's because it fell off earlier in rehearsal, and I didn't really want to repeat that. Why have I got a guitar out that I can't play? Well, you've asked one question, and yes, I just didn't keep playing.
No, you see, I get that. I get why you would have a guitar in and not, because I think they are beautiful to look at as well. I mean, I keep, this is a constant conversation I had with my wife in our last house. I had to. Unfortunately, I've got a few guitars, and I used to have to put the blue guitar in the room that had a blue accent colour, and it kind of went on like that. Do you know what I mean? So I ended up buying guitars just to match the furniture.
Well, to have the money to burn like that.
They're not expensive now, though. I think that's I was saying this to somebody the other day. You can buy the most, I bought a bass guitar because I always wanted a precision bass, but never had one. And I bought the cheapest one I could find. It was about £100. It's probably less than that, about 80 quid. And it's one of the best bass guitars I've ever played, made in China. Fabulous.
Wow.
So you don't have to spend a fortune on it. But go on anyway. So why have you got? Is it just you got it as a piece of furniture or?
Well, no, but I'm thinking if I tuck it away in a room and it gets put in its case and all of that, and that's because I'm such a lazy so-and-so. That's a couple of thresholds above actually. Oh, I'll just pick it up because it's in the corner of the room looking beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it should be on display, and I might start to play it again. And get a bit further this time. Anyway, the reason for getting it out was in the last week, to really answer your question of earlier, went to see a fabulous play that I can really recommend. I can only hope if you're too far from London to get to, it's a West End production, I can only hope it's going to go on tour. It's called Mood Music and stars Ben Chaplin. He's the kind of record industry ego, and there's a woman who gets exploited, as lots of people do, women and men, in the record industry. But it's a lot subtler than that. And the really clever thing is it's sort of done, not quite in the round, it's on an oblong stage, but it comes into the audience. And there's a lot of movement. And there are three layers going on. There's the two people, musician and record industry guy. And then there's the lawyers, because they're everywhere, aren't they? And then a real twist, which gives it real depth, is psychotherapists who are treating the musician, a separate one for the musician, a separate one for the record industry mogul. And so it's it's got some real depth there. So it's not just let's bash the record industry and say they're all rotters. It's more nuanced than that. So mood music at the Old Vic,
and it's in the Oblong. If you never hear that as an expression, do you? You never.
No, you don't.
You could take that. You could go, we were going to do one. It was a 3-handed play. We did it in the triangle, and we could do it in the rhombus. What about? That's
now you're getting technical.
It never gets.
Or if you're at school, if you're at school, you could say, well, we did it in the quadrangle.
Yeah.
Well, that's if you're at school with a quadrangle.
We did it in the isosceles. I mean, I think you've hit on an absence of geometry in theatre.
I think you're picking up the tiny, irrelevant point of what I said. I thought you, as a musician of all people, would be responding and saying, "Oh, tell us more," and where can I see that and when?
And you
I can't remember when it stops, but.
And you asked me why there was a group of people with pitchforks outside my house. You're listening to the Bull and Specs podcast with me, Shane O'Connor, and him, Adrian Lacey. Now, if litter is something that's plaguing you, I sound a bit like Dennis Norden in a situation like this.
If you're
one of those people who doesn't like one of those people who drops litter all over the place, there seems to be a new weapon in the fight against having litter dropped around the place. And I know Sky News are particularly worried about plastics, aren't they? Because they're doing their campaign for the last few months about plastics and about it all being dropped in the sea. This new craze that has come from Sweden, I think it's Swedish, isn't it? Plogging, which is picking litter and jogging at the same time. Which seems a little bit extreme to me, really. Why you can't just pick litter? I mean, what they're saying is that it is good for you because you're moving in all different kind of ways. You're ducking down and you're jumping up high and you're jogging along. But it's really catching on. Have you seen any? Because I mean, these kind of things happen down south more than they do up north.
Well, us namby-pambys who are easily swayed by others.
I mean, it is fair to say, I'm not doing anyone a disservice by saying that it is adopted more down. When you think it's adopted more down south than it would up north initially, and then it catches on in they're doing it in Kent. We'll all have a go.
Well, to answer your question, I haven't seen it yet.
No.
So that doesn't mean it obviously is happening. In fact, they give an instance in the article we're both looking at of a guy who goes by the name of J.P. McCormack. Sounds like an architect company, doesn't it?
You see, now I thought it'd be a playwright, J.P. McCormack, but there you go. Just or a firm of builders, you're right, or architects, yeah,
or solicitors, yeah. Good, solid professional name.
Mm.
So yes, that's a West London example. You just don't want it to be something that's in fashion for 5 minutes and then just falls out of fashion, because the plastic problem is not going away anytime soon, is it?
The litter problem is you see, the plastic problem. I got a real itch I can't scratch with it in a way, because they're banging on about how this plastic and it's all getting into the sea and how we should stop it and stop making stuff out of plastic and all of that sort of stuff. Can't we stop people just dropping it in the first place? Are we that shallow that we can't?
But I mean, yeah. In some areas it's not a problem at all, and other areas it's a terrible problem. But the thing about plastics is it's not just about what people have dropped, although obviously this plogging thing, they're only picking up what others have dropped. But plastic can find its way into the oceans, because the oceans, as someone pointed out in an article I was reading, they're lower down, aren't they, than everything else?
But you're doing it now. We talk about it like the retail industry talks about theft. They call it shrinkage, like it's a naturally occurring thing. If you put 8 tins of beans, then 6 of them will go missing because they'll shrink in the heat or whatever. We talk about plastic will find its way into you see, I've got a real problem with this, because I live on a road where people have a habit, because they think it's like a country road. Nobody lives here, I can just throw my crap out as I'm driving along. And like every morning I'll go and I'll look in the road and I go, oh, well, there's a McDonald's wrapper, there's a Costa cup or whatever, because some idiot has lobbed it. I mean, lobbed it out of their car, Adrian. And I just kind of think, we're not attacking the causes of this, are we?
But you dove in, as they would say in America, before I could finish the point. I was trying to make the point that the plastics in the ocean, ultimately it's all human in origin, isn't it? There's no naturally occurring plastic. But the reason I use the term finds its way, I was trying to make the distinction between plastic that these people are picking up on their plogging, plastic picking up, jogging, whatever it is.
Is it plastic?
And let me finish.
Litter?
And plastics that just find their way into the oceans, that phrase again, which aren't necessarily just dropped. They could have been in landfill or blown away. They might have been in. People can even put them in bins, and then other forces like something as simple as the wind blowing it out or something. So that was the distinction I'm making.
No, I don't. It's the language that we use that. In this article, many end up in our waterways and eventually make their way to the ocean, like they're trying to mate out there or something. It's just like it's people that are doing this, people that are putting it on the ground.
Yeah, but you put stuff in bins, don't you, that goes to landfill and then can blow off the landfill or be picked up by animals, birds, etc.
Well, knowing how tightly controlled landfill is, I mean, you in terms of the licensing and fines and stuff like that, if it's a proper landfill site, then I can't imagine it's all blowing into the sea, to be honest with you.
Well, I'd like to see a seagull getting fined for picking up some plastic out of curiosity.
Well, how many pieces of plastic are we talking about? And how many seagulls? I mean, we're talking about the exception rather than the rule here. Surely we've got to be. Anyway, sorry, can I just, do you know, is it a portmanteau, is it, when it's a condensed word?
Yes, a labradoodle.
That's it, yeah. Or my favourite one, the one I invented was, you could buy those shirts that were like actually stitched. They weren't a proper shirt, but they were stitched inside a jumper
with a collar.
Have you seen those?
I've got one.
Shumpers.
Shumpers.
That's what I call those. but this plogging, is it plastic jogging? I thought it was. I'm not even sure. It might come from the Swedish word. I'm not sure where the word plogger comes from. Really.
Oh right. This is where, as usual, I'm desperately under-researched.
Right.
But I took it to be an elision, a portmanteau, if you will.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be good if portmanteau turned out to be a portmanteau word coming from porter and Mento?
Coming from
didn't know where to go with it.
The thing that I really like, and I didn't know this because I looked on Wikipedia just to see where the word came from. It says it's a combination of jogging and picking up litter, which is no help at all, is it?
It could be the P from picking and L from litter, couldn't it? Thinking about it, as opposed to plastic.
The Swedish is plocka up, which is P-L-O-C-K.
Mind your language.
Yeah,
right.
I do mind it. And up is U-double-P. Because you know what the Swedes are like. 1P is never enough for them, is it? They have to go showing off as well.
It's a bit like being in your 50s.
Yeah. 1P is never enough. You sit back down.
Overnight.
But the really cute thing that it said on Wikipedia, you know David Sedaris, don't you?
I do indeed, yes.
And I'm a big fan of his work and his books and his essays. Apparently, I didn't realise this. You know, he lives in West Sussex. I didn't know if
I'd forgotten. I might have known, but yeah.
He goes on walks, apparently. He takes up to 60,000 steps a day in pursuit of local rubbish. And he's become so effective that the local authority have named one of their waste vehicles after him. So he's actually got...
That's a bit of a poison chalice, though, isn't it? To see your name on something that carries a load of rubbish. Shane, look, your name's there. We've got Bull and Specs on the side of this.
I think it's quite cool, actually. I don't know. So he's into this, but he doesn't do the. You see, this is what for me. It's the jogging is the bit that had put me off because it's supposed to be bad for your knees, isn't it? So it's good for the planet because you're picking up the plastic and the rubbish and all the rest of it. But it's ever so bad for your knees jogging.
Oh, it is. Except, of course, if you're on soft ground, as I run on these days.
Oh, do you? Where do you find that?
It's there. Not in Birmingham. I can't reveal on account that it'll be like the Pied Piper. Loads of people will be chasing after me. Probably with pitchforks, to be honest.
Bottles at you. Pick that up.
Get off my land!
Pick that up, Lacey. What's the matter? Get
You're
off
a
my
useless
dog.
clogger.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I've just got the vision of you now running around and... lycra.
No, don't. It doesn't bear thinking about for either of us. Can I just be a bit of a bore here, though? You can't do a proper jog while you're picking up plastic, can you? I can imagine overshooting, me and my physical prowess.
Yeah.
You know, I'll lunge towards a bottle, think I've slowed down enough and just pass it or trip up or something.
This is what worried me with this, is that you know, they're thinking, well, they're saving the planet, but actually they're putting more strain on the NHS because of faceplant injuries. People are just like straight down and they're heading there.
But to be moderately serious, if there's one organisation in Britain which could make a massive difference on plastic, it's the NHS. Dear old NHS, when I was in hospital last autumn, the stuff we got through, it was single-use plastic. Now, I know that there's the hygiene considerations. I'm not blind to that, but massive amounts of plastic. And I mean, they're very, very hot for obvious hygiene reasons. On, you know, this is the bin for sharps and anything contaminated, quite separate, but absolutely lousy when it comes to plastic. And they could make a massive difference.
I just think we're just demonising plastic, and like plastic isn't evil. It's again, it's you know, it's people. That
I was demonising the NHS.
Oh, right. That's all right.
Which I thought you'd approve.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, only on this narrow issue.
Do you know? And the other thing that worries me about if we concentrate on plastics is there are people out there who are so, maybe they wouldn't be the people picking up litter, but they'll get it into their psyche that, oh, it's all right to throw this Costa cup out there or this McDonald's carton out because it's cardboard. It's not plastic. I'm not doing anything wrong. Do you know what I mean? This is what worries me, is that people who've not really thought life through will go, oh no, it's only wrong if it's plastic. This is okay, and that's, I don't know. I think you know, all I know is that if I had a chocolate bar or anything like that and under the wrapper, I can hear my mum's voice, God rest her soul, saying, "Put it in your pocket, take it home, and put it in the bin when you get home." You know, it
is about upbringing, isn't it? I remember being humiliated. Well, that's how I felt at the time. I was with a couple of friends when I was 10ish, 11ish. They lived over the road, and it was their mum's turn to chaperone us all. And I would be fine with everything inorganic straight in the bin. I had an apple core, and for some reason I thought it was fair game. We were actually at I think it was probably Earl's Court, and it just felt different to me. But I've never forgotten that and never done it again, just throwing an apple core on the ground. I suppose I thought I was in the country and it would, rot and reseed.
Well, I get you thinking, I mean, because it's organic, isn't it? And you'd think, well, a fox will snaffle it or something like that, even in the city. So, you know, I do.
Probably not in Earl's Court, though, if we're honest. Time to sashay into the third and final part of Bull and Specs with me, Adrian, and him, Shane. And shock horror. Well, actually, it's two stories in one we're sort of putting together to do with mobile phones. One is Apple unveiling features to help tackle smartphone addiction. I should say that's in quote marks, smartphone addiction. And then just over the La Manche, or the English Channel, depending on how pretentious you want to be. Pretentious moi, got that in the wrong order. French Parliament backs Macron bill to ban phones in schools. What are you laughing about?
No, I like his style. I like this idea of banning mobile phones in schools. What a great idea. Are we in? Are we all together on this one?
Well, except that you're then placing teachers perhaps, and I don't know, you could argue it both ways, couldn't you? Does it make it easier for them to say, it's not just me saying you're not allowed your phone in class, it's actually the law saying it? I don't know. Do they end up as the sort of police officers on the front line?
Makes it easier for them, doesn't it? I would have thought if you go, sir, why, or if they did it in French, obviously, they wouldn't speak in English.
Madame or
they say, sir, why are you taking my phone? Well, it's not me, it's the law. You haven't got a choice. This is not a conversation piece. You have to do it. I think it's a great idea, and the sooner they adopt it over here, the better. I think it'd be brilliant, don't you?
Well, aren't there some situations where you'd actually want kids to be using their phones
in the classroom?
For a bit of research. It shows how long ago. Last time I was in a class, they still had a blackboard and chalk. So that's obviously not the way it goes these days.
I think they still do, don't they? Do they?
I think it's all overhead projections and fancy stuff, isn't it?
Is it really?
Yeah, apparently involves that nasty electricery stuff. But I don't know. Could there be situations where you're required to use your phone to help you study?
Well, I don't remember in class. I don't remember. Being sent off to the library, which would have been our day's equivalent of looking something up on your phone. Go and find out about this. You'd be in class and you'd be listening to the teacher, or you'd still be working from a textbook, wouldn't you? So, I mean, from my point of view, I think, and I know people who are teachers. I've said this to you before. We've got a few friends who are teachers, and they say it's a problem. In fact, we were with a couple the other week, and she's a deputy head. And she was saying that it is a problem. This not least concentration is an issue.
Yeah,
and because kids have got so much sort of they're subjected to so much going on, so much stimulus that they do tend to have the attention span kind of goes really. So from that perspective, I would have thought it would be a great thing. And all you need to do is have the mobile phone box at the front, and you just put your mobile phone in and you get it back at the end of the lesson, or do you need to bring it into school at all? Do you put it in your locker or something like that? So
I was thinking you might help yourself to a better one on the way out, but maybe that's just the way I think.
Oh, what a great way to make friends, isn't it? You have like a bag and you just drop it in, and then they draw them out like the FA Cup. And they draw these phone and they go, oh, look, whose phone have I got? Well, you're going to have to find out when somebody rings it, then you'll have new parents tonight, won't you? I don't know.
Well, give them ideas.
Do you think? Do you sort of thinking it's a bit draconian then? This idea that it's enshrined in law, rather.
Well, I just worry about and the strange thing to me is that it's France acting ahead of us, because I tend to think of us as the UK as being a bit more draconian. We're certainly punitive with if people break the law.
Although they were great fans of the beheading at one stage, weren't they? So you can hardly say that they weren't fans of punitive measures, because
when you say
that'd put a right crimp in your day, wouldn't it? That would
give you a bit of a headache, but only temporarily.
Yeah.
But we're going back a bit. I didn't think you were quite that old, but hey,
I've worn very well. Yeah. The thing I did like about this, did you see the Education Minister, Jean-Michel Blanquer, is it? I don't know how you pronounce it, forgive me for getting it wrong. He described this as a law for 21st century, a law for addressing the digital revolution, and said how he wanted it to become law that you'd take phones off students. And later down in the article it says that he announced it on Twitter, which
oh yeah, I did see that. I thought, is that ironie, as they say? Irony.
Which I thought, I don't know, great really. But I mean, this comes hand in hand with Apple unveiling these features. Have you seen these new features that you mentioned about the smartphone addiction is one of them?
Yes. I saw on my phone the other night, it said, I was sort of mucking about with the tweaks under the general settings thing.
Yeah.
Trying to find something else, no doubt, and getting distracted, making the point entirely. Damn those phones. I can't even remember where this sentence began. But I found a setting which was, would you like us, or however it was phrased, to give you a little nudge when you've been on your phone for too long? I thought, blooming cheek. And then you think, that's not actually such a silly idea, is it?
So did you go for it, or did you ignore it?
I don't need to, actually, because with my eyes, they say, they tell me, they say, oi, mate,
right?
We're a bit knackered, so give us a break. Give us a break.
Do you think this is a thing then? I'm not sure whether I'm convinced that. I mean, I guess. See, I always think of addiction in terms of if you can't. If you can't go without it, isn't it? That's when you have a problem. I'm guessing is that if it's alcohol, where you have to have alcohol, you can't go without it. So I presume in the same way that people get physical symptoms if they can't go without their smartphone. I mean, that seems plausible that it could be a thing. I'm not sure whether I have it, but simply because I'm more aware of it, maybe. If you're a youngster, maybe. I don't know. Do you think that could be a thing?
Well, I'm sure if you don't have any other frame of reference, do you, if you were born into the mobile phone age? No. But it's a bit like supposedly most of us are psychologically, if not otherwise, addicted to tea. But I never stopped long enough to find out whether I could go without tea.
Yeah, you never tested.
I'll put the kettle on again. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
While we're owning up to things, I'll tell you the one thing that does happen.
There we go.
This is you just mentioned it there, and I thought actually that is bang on the button there. You were saying about or I mentioned about attention span. I do find I'll go on the internet to find something, and before I know it, I'm watching videos of aeroplanes on YouTube, and I kind of think, oh, hang on, it's almost like automatic that you go.
Automatic pilot.
Yeah. That you go from one to... So concentration in terms of like when you're on the internet, I find that quite difficult to stay focused on what you're doing. Very often I'll sit here and I'll go, oh, what was it I was doing there? Do you get that?
Well, there is this thing, yes. And I think there have been a couple of cases recently where I've heard radio programs talking about adult ADHD. And in fact, I can mention the name because he's... as it were, outed himself. The broadcaster Richard Bacon has quotes come out as someone with adult ADHD. He's had a formal diagnosis recently. And I was thinking, yeah, precisely this, probably within the last 24 hours, although all sense of time has gone since I had a mobile phone. This very technology it's virtually got ADHD built in, hasn't it? Because if you're bored with this app, you open another one, and if you get bored with that one, there's another one. Just go to your homepage, press the home button or whatever. So it actually is, I think it's got a built-in capacity to make us lose focus and forget where I was going with that sentence.
This is the adult ADHD kicking in. I'm just trying to think if
thanks for the reminder. Yeah,
if I actually know what ADHD is now, or whether it just was what we used to call a scatterbrain, was it? Or
well, it would have gone undiagnosed before.
Is that because it isn't a thing, or is that? Is that
well,
we've
only
just
person.
Made up what it is. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the other thing is that, yes, you were reminding me actually. Yes, let's spell it out. Attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. I think what happened was they started to say attention deficit. Oh, I've lost the will. ADHD, and that's how it. So that's quite ironic, really, isn't it?
This is the one that we're talking about with the apps and unveiling these features that will help tackle smartphone addiction. There's loads of different. These are all upgrades, aren't they, or things that they put into some of the iPhone things. The ones that I thought was really cool as well. This is when technology is getting useful, Adrian. I think there's an app now where is it augmented AR, augmented reality, where you can point your phone at something and you can measure it. Now I can't. As a guy who likes doing things, like manual things, I can't. There's part of me that thinks, God, that's blooming useful, but I can't for the life of me think what I'd use it for.
Would you throw away your ruler or your what is it, the retractable thing,
the tape measure?
Yeah.
No.
I thought it had a fancy term, but yes.
Or I'd spend all my time just checking that it was right.
You'd cross-reference the two. Oh, you're such a nerd.
Because on the iPhone you've got a spirit level. Have you found that function? At the back of the compass.
No.
There's a compass on your iPhone.
I've got a compass. Yeah, you've got to do your figure of 8, haven't you?
That's it. And you get although no, it seems to do it itself now in recent editions. It seems to calibrate itself.
Right.
But if you slide it across, there's actually a spirit level. So if you hold the phone level, it'll be a green circle, and then one circle moves away from the other one as you tilt it, and it shows you how many degrees you've tilted it.
Oh,
that's hours.
I can imagine you get. Yeah, I was going to say you get very excited over that.
The one you like as well. They've changed some of the emojis or added some of the emojis. I didn't realise that you're a recovering ginger.
Yes, we were saying this just before we hit record. But this is another distraction, isn't it? Because it's gone off topic. Okay, it's to do with phones, but we've gone in the same article from Apple unveils features to help the blah, blah, blah addiction.
Yeah.
And you scroll down, and I got distracted by this thing where, yes, there is, sure enough, somewhat belatedly, we would have to say, because I got a chip on my shoulder. But yes, we now have redhead emojis. But why the heck didn't they think of that earlier? And what made you assume I couldn't be a redhead?
I
might be a slaphead now, but
I just never. I don't know. I just never thought.
Or I prefer to think strawberry blonde, if I'm honest.
Yeah, you think whatever you like. I mean, people will say.
Oh, thank you.
People go, "Oi, Ginger, come here." You know.
Well, I did say I was a quarter Scot, so that's mostly around the follicle region.
You didn't say it was the top half or the top quarter,
well,
did you?
I usually say around the wallet region, but that could cause profound offence.
Talking about gadgets on your iPhone.
Yeah.
Actually, this is on my iPod, but it's the same difference. Oh, you can't see it, it's too bright. That is bright. But that's my stopwatch on there, which is telling us that it's time up, and we've come to the end of another podcast, mate, I'm afraid.
Surely not. Okay.
I'm afraid so.
Even though I can't see it, I'll take your word for it.
It's so bright. I'm surprised you can't see it from space, to be honest with you. I don't know why that is so bright. If you've enjoyed the podcast and you'd like to subscribe, then you can. There are ways that you can do that in terms of the video side of it on YouTube, which I was going to say I'll let Adrian do, but I've just done it, haven't I, really?
I think you have.
Well, you can tell him how to get there, can't you? I don't mind. Whatever.
Well, yeah. Well, once you're at YouTube, you search Bullet and Specs, and the "and" as ever is the ampersand. You didn't mention that, did you?
I did.
I drifted off, you see, with my attention deficit.
You
haven't done the audio then?
He's there just looking out the window. He'll be back with us in a minute. Yeah, sorry, the audio. Yeah, the audio, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes are the place that you can find us and subscribe and like and listen to back issues and all the rest of it as well.
I was actually going to do it myself this week. You won't believe me, but I was. Anyway, I'm going off to play with my plectrum.
And there really is no answer to that. I'm a bit saddened, actually, because I thought I was going to suggest that we could start a Proclaimers tribute act.